Imagine staring at, like, a $50,000 invoice for AI integration.
Oh, yeah.
Terrifying. Right. Like, you bought the software, the vendor promised it would make your team, I don't know, infinitely faster, but then your CFO walks into your office and asks exactly how much money it saved this month.
And you just freeze.
You freeze because you have absolutely no idea how to actually measure it. I mean, proving the value of a physical tool, like a forklift, is incredibly simple. It moves heavy boxes from point A to point B.
Exactly. It's visible.
Yeah, but with artificial intelligence, we are all suddenly trying to measure this invisible work that operates completely in the background.
It is honestly the absolute definition of a measurement crisis for modern businesses right now. Like, we're drowning in AI hype, but we're absolutely starving for the concrete proof of its value. You can't just point to a vague dashboard showing how many chats a bot had and expect your finance department to be impressed.
No, they're going to laugh you out of the room.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. Whether you are a business owner trying to justify a massive tech budget, or maybe you're prepping for a strategy meeting, or you're just our resident learner who wants to know how things actually work behind the scenes, we are so glad you are here.
We really are.
Today we have a fantastic source. It's an excerpt from this really comprehensive guide by a company called Chatitude. It's titled Measuring AI Service Metrics and ROI for MSPs. And our mission for this deep dive is pretty simple. We are going to cut through the fluff, and discover the concrete framework used to prove AI's value using metrics that actually matter.
Yeah, and just to set the stage for you, when we say MSPs, we are talking about managed service providers.
Right.
Basically, these are the businesses that manage IT and tech support for other businesses. So if you work at a mid-sized company and your network goes down, or I don't know, your laptop won't connect to the printer.
The classic printer issue. Always the printer. The MSP is the team answering the phone. And the source makes the very bold claim right off the bat here. They say traditional vanity metrics for AI are completely dead.
Wow. Dead.
Yeah. We have to focus entirely on what business owners actually care about.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if vanity metrics like, I don't know, total conversations, if those are out, what is replacing them?
Wow.
According to the source, we are looking at the holy trinity of AI metrics: money, time, and risk. We basically have to establish this baseline of internal efficiency before we even start worrying about how the customer feels about the AI.
Right. And what's fascinating here is how the source completely reframes the entire concept of efficiency. We so often think of AI simply as a tool to just, do things faster.
Yeah, shave a few seconds off here and there.
Exactly. But for an MSP, or really any service desk, the most critical metric is what the source calls capacity gained.
Capacity gained.
Yeah. Let's walk through the mechanics of a traditional IT ticket. A user submits a request saying, "My screen is black." A human coordinator have to open that ticket, read it, check the user's history,
To categorize the issue.
categorize it, figure out the urgency, and then finally route it to the correct technician. That whole manual triage process takes several minutes per ticket.
Which, I mean, that doesn't sound like much until you multiply it by 1,000 tickets a day.
Precisely. It scales terribly. But AI drops that triage time to near instant. It reads the context, categorizes it, and routes it in milliseconds.
Oh, wow.
But the metric you report to the CFO isn't just, hey, we saved 5 minutes.
Right, because 5 minutes isn't money.
Exactly. The metric is the ability to handle significantly more tickets without adding staff. You are measuring the cost of the AI platform against the salary of an additional human dispatch coordinator that you no longer need to hire. You're measuring the capacity to take on 5 new clients with your existing headcount. When you frame it like that, the math becomes undeniable.
That is such a crucial distinction. Saving 5 minutes isn't a business outcome unless those 5 minutes translate into taking on more work. But what really caught my eye in the source was the section on billing accuracy.
Oh, yeah. That's a huge one.
Because we don't usually connect AI customer service tools to the accounting department,
It is often the most overlooked category, but the financial impact is massive when you look at the daily reality of a human technician. I mean, they get busy. They jump from a simple password reset directly into a massive server outage fire drill.
Right. They're just putting out fires all day.
Exactly. And they don't always write down exactly what they did or how long it took until the end of the week when their memory is, frankly, pretty foggy.
Which inevitably leads to incomplete ticket notes and delayed time entries.
Yeah. And when a client gets a vague bill that just says, fixed server 4 hours, they push back. They dispute it.
Of course they do. I would.
And not only do they push back, But resolving that dispute eats up another 2 hours of administrative time. The MSP usually ends up just writing down the cost just to keep the peace.
So the revenue just evaporates.
Completely evaporates.
Yeah.
But AI fixes this by automating same-day time entry and ensuring the notes are deeply detailed and complete the literal moment the interaction ends.
It's kind of like installing a smart meter on a leaky pipe, right? The water, or in this case, the billable hours, was always flowing, but the AI ensures every single drop is tracked, logged, and billed before it hits the floor.
That's a great way to look at it.
The AI isn't necessarily generating new sales in this scenario, it's just plugging the holes in the bucket. If an AI just writes better notes and prevents a client from disputing a bill, the ROI is immediate margin expansion.
The recovered revenue.
Recovered revenue, I love that. And it's not just daytime operations we are tracking either. The source talks heavily about measuring after-hours optimization.
Yeah, and think about the human toll behind that specific metric. When a critical server goes down at 2 in the morning, an on-call engineer gets paged. That is expensive and highly disruptive.
Oh, totally. Waking someone up at 2 a.m. is never cheap.
Right. But what if the issue wasn't actually a server outage? What if it was just a night shift worker who locked themselves out of their account?
Oh, man. Getting caged for a password reset?
It happens all the time. But the source explains that AI acts as this sophisticated filter, structuring after-hours requests so only genuine critical emergencies actually reach the engineers in the middle of the night.
Wow.
So you are tracking reduced overtime costs, yes, but you're also measuring a significant reduction in engineer burnout. And that directly impacts your long-term hiring and retention costs.
So if you are listening to this and you ever have to justify a new tool's ROI to your boss, take note. Don't talk about the underlying technology. Don't talk about neural networks or large language models.
You don't care.
They really don't. Frame it entirely around cost avoided, revenue recovered, and capacity gained. That is a language every executive speaks.
They absolutely do. However, we do have to address a glaring blind spot here.
Okay. What's the blind spot?
Well, we have stopped the internal bleeding. We are saving time and recovering lost revenue. But what if this highly efficient AI is actually infuriating your clients?
Yeah.
All of those internal efficiencies mean absolutely nothing if the end user is miserable. We have to shift from measuring internal efficiency to measuring the external customer experience.
Right, because if the AI is super efficient at making your clients hate you, you don't really have a business anymore.
Exactly.
The source talks about embedding feedback directly into the AI workflow. They suggest a simple thumbs up or thumbs down, maybe a 1 to 5 scale, immediately after the ticket is created or resolved, along with a prompt asking, what went wrong.
The timing is the critical variable there. You cannot send an email survey 3 days later and expect accurate data. People just don't care anymore.
No, I ignore those every single time.
Right. You need interaction-level feedback tied to specific outcomes. You need to know, was the issue resolved by the AI or was it escalated? How long did it take? Correlating the satisfaction score with those specific workflow moments is where the real actionable data actually lives.
Wait, hold on. I have to push back on this a little bit. This reliance on surveys.
Okay, go for it.
Because if we are just looking at a thumbs up or a thumbs down, aren't we kind of ignoring basic human psychology? Like, if an AI is super fast and the user just clicks the thumbs up just to get the pop-up window off their screen, but the AI actually got it wrong or didn't fully solve the problem, our data is completely compromised. People suffer from massive survey fatigue. Doesn't relying on a quick survey kill a company's credibility if the underlying issue remains broken?
You are hitting on the exact reason why the source validates your skepticism here. You really cannot just trust what the survey says.
Okay, good. So they address this.
They do. And this brings us to the most vital part of measuring customer experience in an AI world: behavioral signals. The source emphasizes that you have to watch what the user actually does, not just what they say.
Okay, so what does a behavioral signal look like in practice? Like, how do we track what they do?
It's the data that fills in the massive gaps that surveys miss. Think about an AI hallucination loop, where the bot keeps giving the user the same useless troubleshooting steps over and over.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. The user gets so angry they just close the browser window entirely. A traditional survey never captures that anger because the user didn't stay long enough to rate it.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
That is why you must track conversation abandonment. Did they just give up? You also need to track repeat contacts. If a user clicks thumbs up, but then they open a new ticket for the exact same issue, 2 hours later, the AI failed. You have to track the escalation rate immediately following an AI interaction.
Wow. Yeah, actions speak infinitely louder than a 5-star rating.
The data backs that up completely, and it adds another layer of complexity with specific benchmarks we actually have to hit. To maintain credibility with the end user, the AI must hit a baseline of 85 to 90% customer satisfaction, or CSA, just to match the human baseline.
So it's not allowed to be worse than a human.
Never. And on the speed front, common issues need to be resolved 50 to 80% faster. But here is the real kicker.
What is it?
The source found that fully automated resolutions only earn those high satisfaction scores if the response time stays under 30 seconds.
Under 30 seconds. That's fast.
The moment the AI takes longer than 30 seconds to think, the user's trust completely evaporates. They just assume the bot is broken.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because the source throws a major plot twist at us.
Right.
We just established how to measure internal ROI, and we know how to track external satisfaction through those behavioral signals. But the source explicitly states that these metrics behave completely differently depending on who the client is. Like, it is not a one-size-fits-all situation.
And this is the context trap that so many companies fall right into. They buy an AI tool and try to deploy it the exact same way for every single customer across the board. The source breaks this down by looking at deployment models, specifically fully automated versus hybrid models.
Let's explore the mechanics of that edge case cliff you mentioned earlier.
Okay, so fully automated means the AI handles the interaction end to end, right, with zero human intervention.
Just bot from start to finish.
Exactly. It is highly efficient, and it produces incredible metrics for simple, repeatable requests like password resets. But the satisfaction drops off a cliff. The absolute second an edge case appears. A complex, multi-layered problem, and the AI just gets confused.
Yeah, and then the user is just trapped talking to a robot.
Which is exactly why the source recommends a hybrid approach for most MSPs. The AI handles the high-volume intake, the triage, the documentation, and then seamlessly hands it off to a human for the judgment-heavy work. You sacrifice a tiny bit of raw efficiency, but you maintain much, much higher trust.
It's like hiring a brand new employee. I mean, you wouldn't send your brand new intern out to handle a complex compliance audit on day one.
Definitely not.
You would have them taking messages, sorting the mail, gathering basic information, and routing requests to the right senior departments. The source is basically arguing that AI doesn't need to be perfect everywhere. It just needs to be excellent in the right places, like high volume intake and after hours routing.
The underlying mechanism of that analogy is spot on. And the source takes it a step further by segmenting the audience into 3 distinct tiers. Because the metrics that matter most change fundamentally based on the audience.
Let's hear them.
Let's look at the first tier. SMBs, or small to medium businesses. For them, speed and 247 availability are the holy grail. The behavioral data shows they will actually forgive minor AI imperfections or slight misunderstandings as long as the response is instant.
Because the psychology of a small business owner is entirely about momentum. If their point of sale system goes down, just knowing that something is working on their problem instantly at 9 p.m. on a Sunday is a huge relief. They just want forward progress.
Right.
But if an SMB just wants raw speed, I have to imagine the opposite is true for the big players. I mean, if you are deploying this for a highly regulated industry like a hospital network or a financial firm, an AI getting a compliance question wrong doesn't just lose you a client, it gets you sued.
Very quickly, yes.
How do the metrics shift for them?
You've perfectly deduced the third tier there. Regulated industries, healthcare, finance, legal. They have absolute zero tolerance for error. Zero. Their satisfaction metrics depend entirely on accuracy, security, and auditability.
Wow.
In these environments, the source notes that hybrid models, where a human is deeply in the loop to verify every single action, significantly outperform fully automated ones. You literally cannot lead with speed when selling AI to a hospital. You have to lead with accuracy and absolute control.
That makes total sense. What about the companies in the middle?
That's the second tier, the mid-market. They do not care about raw speed as much as they care about SLA adherence, service level agreements, and predictability.
Okay, so they want the same every time.
Exactly. If the AI is incredibly fast on Monday but gets confused and delays a ticket on Tuesday, that inconsistency totally fails the mid-market test. They want process quality above all else.
Which really changes the narrative of how you even talk about this technology. You aren't selling AI. You are basically selling targeted operational improvements tailored to their specific corporate anxiety.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you really start to see the immense logistical challenge for an MSP manager here. Think about it. If you were an MSP managing IT for dozens, maybe hundreds of different companies.
That's a lot of companies.
Yeah, some speed-hungry SMBs, some zero-tolerance hospitals, some mid-market firms demanding consistency. How do you actually manage all these different metrics across different models without completely drowning in the data?
Honestly, if you are listening to this and you manage a team, think about how much of your day is wasted just trying to figure out what to look at.
So much time.
If I had to check a different spreadsheet for every single client to see if the AI intern is sorting the mail correctly, I haven't saved any time at all. I've just creating a new full-time job for myself called Dashboard Watcher.
And that administrative bloat is exactly why the source dedicates its final section to dashboard architecture and portfolio management. To manage AI at scale, you need a multi-layer dashboard. You need a portfolio level that looks at the health of all clients globally, a client level to drill down into specific companies, and a workflow level to see how specific tasks like after-hours triage are performing in real time.
But even with neat little layers, that is still just a mountain of data. How does a human manager actually use it to make decisions?
Through a philosophy the source calls exception-based management. Let's look at a real-world scenario. Imagine an MSP manager arriving on a Monday morning to 500 new tickets.
A nightmare.
It's a total nightmare. You simply cannot look at every ticket or every AI interaction. Instead of clicking through them randomly, the dashboard must be designed to act as an alarm system. It automatically flags the anomalies. Out of those 500 tickets, the dashboard highlights just one workflow, say password resets for a specific mid-market client that took 45 seconds longer than the established baseline.
Oh, so the manager can dive in, see that the AI's prompt is getting confused by a new security protocol, and basically fix the prompt before the client even realizes there is a problem.
Precisely. The dashboard has to answer one single question. Where do I need to pay attention right now?
Where do I need to pay attention right now? If your metrics aren't answering that exact question, they're just noise taking up space on your monitor.
Yep.
And the source makes a great point about closing the feedback loop here. Data without a next step is useless. If the dashboard flags a low-performing workflow, that metric must trigger an immediate action, like retraining the AI prompts for that specific client or updating the knowledge base because the behavioral signals show a spike in escalations.
It turns the dashboard from a passive reporting tool that just tells you what happened yesterday into the actual operating system for your service delivery today.
And think about how powerful this is when you sit down for a quarterly business review with a client or your stakeholders. You use this multi-layered, exception-based data to create a compelling before and after narrative. You don't sit there and try to sell them on some vague AI transformation.
Right.
You put the concrete metrics on the screen and say, look, we are delivering significantly faster responses, which addresses your need for speed. We are maintaining or exceeding your previous satisfaction scores by tracking behavioral signals, which proves quality. And we have recovered revenue by eliminating billing errors and missed tickets, which guarantees consistency.
You move the conversation entirely away from the fear of automation replacing human touch and shift it to the undeniable reality of measurably better service. That is how you build long-term trust in a rapidly changing landscape.
So, what does this all mean? If we trace our steps back, measuring AI success means entirely abandoning those early, useless vanity metrics.
Yeah.
We have to focus on the holy trinity of money, time, and risk, measuring capacity gained rather than just seconds saved.
Right.
It requires looking past simple survey scores and actually tracking behavioral signals like abandonment rates and repeat contacts to understand what the user is really experiencing. We have to avoid the context trap by tailoring our deployment to the specific risk tolerance of the client, whether they are an SMB or a highly regulated hospital.
Exactly.
And finally, we have to use exception-based dashboards to manage all of this chaos at scale, focusing only on the anomalies that demand our immediate attention.
This raises an important question, though, something to really chew on as we integrate these tools deeper into our workflows.
Okay, let's hear it.
The source emphasizes training AI to match human baselines for customer satisfaction, hitting that 85 to 90% mark. But think about the natural evolution of this. As AI successfully handles more and more of the mundane, repetitive tasks, the easy password resets and the simple routing, what happens to the human workers?
I guess they're left with the hard stuff.
Exactly. They are left to deal exclusively with the most complex, high-emotion, edge case escalations, the truly difficult stuff that the AI couldn't handle. So how will the baseline for human customer service evolve?
Oh, wow.
When human beings are only fighting the absolute hardest fires day in and day out, their resolution times are going to naturally plummet, and their satisfaction scores might drop simply because the problems they are handed are so incredibly stressful. Will our traditional metrics for measuring human performance become completely obsolete?
That is a fascinating thought to leave on. If the humans are only getting the impossible tickets, we might need an entirely new framework just to measure human success in an AI-first world. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. As you head back to work, take a look at the tools you use every day through this new metric-driven lens. Because whether you are dealing with a simple piece of physical hardware or deploying an invisible AI workflow, the true measure of a tool isn't how shiny the technology is, it's whether or not it actually drives the nail. We will catch you next time.